Here we go, 10-5. We're just gonna jump on in. Here's your first example. You have my octagons, not my strength, okay? You have an octagon, a regular octagon. It's not horrible, guys. Okay. Let's say this is our setup. You have a regular octagon. Let's write that down so when you go back and look at this, you know what formula you're using. And we want to know the area of it, okay? What's the formula you're going to use for the area of a regular octagon? 1/2 AP, okay? Here's the deal. You know this process. You did this process in 10-3 a lot. You gentlemen with me over there? Why are you both looking at an iPad right now? Yeah? Oh, okay. Just making sure you're with me. So if all I have is the length of a side, I have to figure out my perimeter, and I have to figure out my apothem. Can you tell me the perimeter right now? 7.5 times 8, correct. Okay, so if I plug that in, 7.5 times 8 is 60. Okay, so I have my P, which is great. Now we have to find the apothem, okay? And to do that, you draw in your apothem, and you draw in a radius. Thank you, ma'am. Where's Chloe? This is for you. Do you remember what you have to do next at this point? You did this in 10-3. You had to find what? You have to find the measure of the angle in that triangle, okay? You know what, rather than do that, I'm just gonna redraw that triangle so I can draw it a little bigger and neater. So this triangle is this triangle, okay? That means this is my apothem, and this is a piece of the perimeter. How big is that? Good, Sam. That big. It's half of 7.5, right? So that would be 3.75. Okay. How do I find that angle? You're sassy this morning.
This is just the first thing that popped into my head.
Okay. 360 divided by what? Divided by 8. Okay. So 360 divided by 8 is 45. That means if I were to draw in the central angles, right, each one of these right now is 45. Okay. But then I draw the apothem in. So what is this angle? Half of that. You're going to cut the 45 in half, and you get 22.5. So this angle here is 22.5. And I'm telling you guys, doing this without drawing it, God bless you if that is easy for you, but it is a lot of information. I would draw that triangle every single time, okay? Not saying you have to, but if you get it wrong on the quiz and I don't see something from it, I can't give you credit for it, so keep that in mind. It's real easy to make simple little mistakes in these problems. Okay, so you have a triangle where we have one side, we have an angle, and we're looking for another side. How do you solve for A? Sohcahtoa, right? So from the angle, we have which two sides? The opposite and the adjacent. Which trig function is that? Tan. Okay, so here's the deal. We're solving for A right now. We're not finding the area yet. We're just finding A. So to find A, we're going to say tan what? What always comes after your trig function? The angle. How many degrees? So tan 22.5 equals opposite 3.75 over adjacent, which is our apothem. What is your next step?
So then you try to isolate
Right. We're going to multiply by a on both sides to get a out of the denominator. Okay, so now we have a tan 22.5 equals 3.75. How do I solve for a? You divide by tan 22.5. Okay, you won't ever use a inverse on this stuff. We're never going to be solving for the angle. You can find the angle on your own. So just keep that in mind. Don't think inverse on these. So our apothem is this. Now, here's the deal. When you plug that in, you're going to get a really random number. 3.75 divided by tan 22.5 is this number. Okay, 9.053300859. Your final answer is going to be to the nearest tenth. You cannot round to the nearest tenth right now. If you round to the nearest tenth for your apothem, then your answer to the nearest tenth will be wrong. Okay, so either do the process where you leave this in your calculator and call it answer, or you need to round to 3 decimal places. You can do it either way. Okay, if you want to just leave it in your calculator, leave it in your calculator. But now, if you think back on this problem, we have an apothem, we have a perimeter, which means we can plug into the formula. Area equals 1/2 times 9.053 times 60. And then you're done. Okay, so you plug that in, you round that to the nearest tenth, and you get 271.6. We were talking centimeters, so that would be square centimeters. Okay? Nothing I did there is new. We have done every step of that, just in different chapters, different pieces. Okay? So your job is just to make sure we can put it all together. And if you didn't get this the first time around, make sure that you figure it out now before we get to the next test. Okay? Questions on that? Okay, I'm going to do another one. This one's a little bit easier. Well, yeah. It's just a different format, I guess. This one's a regular hexagon, and you're welcome on these to do it without the trig because you know how to do a hexagon without trig. I'm going to do it with the trig right now because I want you to figure out the trig for when you don't have a hexagon or a triangle or a square. Okay, when you have a pentagon, you have to use the trig. When you have an octagon, you have to use the trig. So I'm going to do it with the trig right now, even though in 10.3 we learned how to do it a different way, just so you get the idea. Okay, so let's say I have a radius of 6 feet here. And that's all they tell me. And I know to find the area of a regular hexagon, I have to use 1/2 AP. I don't have A, I don't have P. Okay? So if I draw in my apothem, so here's A, we're going to call this X for right now to help us find the perimeter. But we need to start with the angle. So to find that angle, we're going to do 360 divided by what? Divided by 6 is 60 degrees. So a central angle is 60. My apothem cuts that in half. So my angle in this triangle is 30 degrees. Okay, and like I said, I'm going to do the trig. So if I'm solving for my apothem, we're looking at this triangle right now, 30. This is A, this is X, this is 6. If I'm solving for A, I have these two sides. Which trig function would that be? That's cosine, right? Adjacent and hypotenuse. So we're going to say cosine 30 equals A over 6. How do you solve for A? You multiply by 6. Okay, so we're going to multiply by 6 on both sides. This goes away. So this is my A, okay? And you're welcome to leave it as 6 cosine 30, or you're welcome to plug it in. If you plug it in, how many decimal places are you gonna use? 3. So we would say 5.196 is our apothem, okay? Then we need X. You have opposite and hypotenuse for X, so that's gonna be what? Opposite over hypotenuse, that's the SO part of Sohcahtoa, right? So we're gonna say the sine of 30 equals X over 6. The only reason I say this is a little bit easier is because your variable's in the denominator, so it's one less step in solving, right? So if I multiply by 6 on both sides, this is gone. This is what you're gonna plug in. Oh boy. Oh, Ryan's not here. Oh, I thought this was for today. This is not for today. Karen, this is for you. It's not a big deal. You don't have to play in the game or anything. You can come grab it. Oh, you want to play in the game? Okay. All right, so 6 sine 30, if you plug that in, you get 3. This one, there is no rounding because it is actually the number 3. It's not like 3 point da-da-da-da-da, whatever. Okay, so if I know this is 3, right, this piece up here is 3, what is your perimeter? 3 times...
It's 36.
3 times 12, or 3 times 2 times 6, okay? However you need to think of it. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 times around, okay? So 3 times 12, or 36, is our perimeter. Okay, so now look at your formula. 1/2 AP. AP. Plug that into your formula. So area equals 1/2 times the apothem times the perimeter. And when you plug that in, you get an area to the nearest tenth of 93.5 square feet. Okay? I am not denying that this is a lot of steps. This is a lot of steps. You need to make sure that you have the end goal in mind, right? The end goal is find the area, 1/2 AP. So you need to find the apothem, you need to find the perimeter. Try to not let yourself get overwhelmed by that. Break it down. Find one thing at a time. What's my apothem? Find it. What's my perimeter? Find it. Then you can plug it into the formula. It feels like a lot because it's a lot of steps to it, but it's all review. It is all stuff you've done, okay? Keep that in mind. Okay, the last thing is the area of a triangle, but a different way because we aren't gonna have the information we need. So when you have an SAS triangle, okay? In other words, if I have a triangle that looks like this, remember how we did A is across from A, and B is across from B, and C is across from C, and we're gonna call this our height for right now. If we set this up, this is just me proving to you why this formula I'm gonna give you right now works. So stick with me for a second. I know the formula for a triangle is area equals 1/2 times the base times the height, okay? But you're not gonna have the base and the height. So we're gonna have to find it a different way. So I also know in this picture that the sine of A equals what? The sine of A equals H over C, right? That's a true statement. Sine of A equals H over C. So if I solve for H right now, because we're not going to have the height in these problems. We're going to have B and C and A, okay? Side, angle, side. Hey, there's your dad. So if we're saying the height equals C sine A, if we plug that in place of this, we get area equals 1/2 times B, take out the H and put in C sine A, we can use that formula every time in an SAS setup. Okay, so that's the new formula that you're going to be using, 1/2 BC sine A. Let me show you how it works. It's very simple. Last example here. They're going to give you a triangle that looks like this. This is a 36-degree angle. This is 8. This is 12. And they're going to say find the area. Okay, in this setup, the angle is always the A, and then B and C are interchangeable. So this might be B, and this might be C, or you could flip-flop that, totally fine, but you're just plugging it into the formula, area equals 1/2 BC sine A. Okay, how would we plug that in? 1/2 times what? What's B? 8, what's C? 12 times the sine of what? 36, right? You literally just plug that into your calculator and you're done. So you're gonna have SAS, you're gonna have B, C, and A, and you're just plugging it in, okay? So you just need to make sure that you know that you're using the SAS formula on this type of problem. So if you plug that in, your area comes out to 28.2 square centimeters. One more for good measure. How would we plug this into the formula? What comes first? 1/2 times what? Times 10 times 16 times sine 34. Okay, so literally B, C, and A, you're just plugging into 1/2 BC sine A. Okay, those should be like, here's the thing. This should be the easiest problem on your test because you're going to have the formula in front of you. Because I give you the formula sheet on this test, you will have the formula in front of you, and you'll see a triangle, and a lot of people go, oh, 1/2 BH, and they try to figure out how to do 1/2 BH with those numbers. Don't forget that you know this formula. If you have SAS in a triangle, it's 1/2 BC sine A, okay? Should be the easiest problem on the test, and somehow, I think with so much information, with all the other formulas, people just forget. So don't forget that you have this SAS formula. This should come out to 44.7. We're going to pretend I wrote inches and call this square inches. Okay? Questions? Okay, quick recap of this. When you have a regular polygon, find the angle, do the trig, you find your apothem, you find your perimeter, and you plug it into the formula, okay? Make sure you find the angle. If you don't find the angle, you just can't solve them. And I feel like people forget to find the angle. So make sure you're finding that central angle, 360 divided by the number of sides, divided by 2, and then you're good. Okay, any questions?